Yo, what's good, guys? It's Joshua here. Welcome to another video. So this video is gonna be kind of different in that we'll be kind of looking into we'll be kind of having a common reflection on how the year has been, basically for you as the business owner, as the epoxy flooring pro, and the mistakes that most epoxy, or if not many epoxy flooring contractors have been making in 2025, and even as most business owners or many people are planning to gear into 2026. What is the blueprint that you have ready in store for you to ensure that you as the business owner are not repeating the same mistakes that held you back in 2025 and eventually trickled down to your financial goals, right? So I think this video is going to be so valuable in terms of just reflecting what has worked for you as the business owner, what has not been working within the epoxy flooring market, and what are the current market trends, or what are the top epoxy flooring contractors who are skyrocketing to revenues close to $500,000 in annual revenue. What are they doing that is different from the average or the normal epoxy flooring contractors who are not seeing these huge numbers, right? So this is basically going to be a really introspective kind of video where you're just basically going to reflect on yourself as the business owner based on what you're going to be discussing on, and basically giving you a blueprint on how you as the business owner can improve and basically understand or identify the areas of weaknesses within the business and see where improvement needs to be made, right? So I hope you guys are going to be really I hope you guys are going to get this video valuable. Hope you guys are going to see this video as valuable and eventually get something that is going to eventually help your business skyrocket in 2026 and make 2026 a very profitable and good year for you as the business, and even for you as the business owner. So without much further ado, let's get straight into it. So basically, this is just the current statistic within the epoxy flooring market. The 2025 epoxy flooring, this is basically an outline of the 2025 epoxy flooring insights and how you can scale beyond $500,000 in annual revenue for you as the business, right? So you need to realize that the epoxy flooring market is currently booming and it's not stopping anytime soon. The epoxy flooring industry or market is projected actually to surge from 2.43 billion US dollars to 3.72 billion. Look at that. That's really huge. And this basically represents a 5.5% compound annual growth rate. So the market is not declining anytime soon. The market is constantly going to increase, right? So meaning as many business owners who are interested in starting epoxy flooring businesses, as many of them are coming in, the desire or the consumer demand for epoxy flooring is also increasing, right? But this is a really huge contrast or a huge kind of paradox here, because what is basically happening here is that in as much or in spite of this surge of revenue, or in spite of this huge market value or market how can I call it, market rate within the epoxy flooring industry, 70% of contractors actually remain trapped below the 500k revenue. So they're basically losing 10 to 50k monthly just because of these 8 fixable mistakes that I'm going to be showing you guys. Now, the 300k ceiling, why are most contractors still stuck at an annual revenue of $300,000 instead of scaling to those greater heights of even $1 million in a year in annual revenue, right? So we need to realize in 2025, the greatest and the most single important challenge that most epoxy contractors have realized or identified is issues to do with lead generation. 61% of contractors have identified that lead generation is their primary challenge. This is what is really making them constrained. They can't really seem to move. This is what is acting as the bottleneck. the major bottleneck within the business basically. So this is what is creating devastating feast or famine cycles. So they, in month one in January, they might be recording an increase or in terms of their leads, their lead pipeline. In February it becomes dry, they're not really getting consistent leads. In March it becomes a famine, in April it becomes a feast. So it becomes a vicious cycle. There really isn't that consistency in terms of getting consistent leads and ensuring that you can even predict that next month you're basically going to pocket in 50K in monthly revenue for your business, right? So this is what is currently draining most epoxy flooring businesses. This is what is acting as the challenge. And actually, the reality is most revenue loss stems actually, apart from only lead generation, systematic failures within the business, not actually market conditions. Just as we've seen, the market conditions are right. The epoxy flooring market is growing, and it does not seem to decline anytime soon. The consumer demand for epoxy flooring as a niche or as a business is basically increasing. People are switching their 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 flooring options. They want epoxy floor. So this in itself, we cannot blame this to market conditions or any of that. That is totally a lie. Now, apart from this, we have the critical revenue drains. What apart from lead generation, what is it apart from lead generation and the systematic failures that is causing these revenue drains, right? Number one, we have relying on guesswork rather than having or implementing scalable systems. This is what is making most epoxy flooring contractors to seal, basically to just reach the ceiling. They seem not to break through that ceiling, that 300K in annual revenue ceiling, right? Wasting 50% of time pursuing unqualified leads. So they're working with people who don't even have the money or the amount to purchase the epoxy flooring service. They're basically working with price shoppers, right? And eventually leading them to undervalue their services by 1K, $1,000 per job on average. So instead of competing on value, they're competing on price, which should not be the case. And eventually leads them to missing follow-ups when 80% of sales require 5+ touch points. And we have been covering this on the issue of touch points. Most epoxy flooring contractors don't have professional follow-up systems, and therefore this makes them lose thousands and thousands of dollars in terms of revenue a month, right? So as an epoxy flooring contractor, working 60-hour weeks does not really make you reach the 10K monthly goal. The market is not the problem. Your operational habits are. Now, in order to fix all these problems and ensure that you are reaching out, or you're basically reaching towards the 20 to 50K dollar per month revenue goal, you need to fix these patterns and unlock consistent 20 to 50K months, right? The mistake number one, relying solely on word of mouth. So we need to identify, or we need to realize the saturation problem that is related or tied to relying on word of mouth, because we need to understand personal networks are going to eventually saturate within 1 to 2 years. You're not going to be relying on word of mouth or referrals for a long time. Basically, if you look at the long term impact that word of mouth really has, it's really minimal. So within 1 to 2 years, referrals are going to plummet to 30 to 50% without, if you're not actually cultivating the relationships that you have with your past clients, right? But now digital lead sources is what is currently outpacing word of mouth in a ratio of 3 to 1 in 2025. Now think of the revenue impact that this has. Stagnation at 5 to 10 jobs monthly. This means you're missing 50K plus in monthly revenue potential. And this is where your growth now tends to flatline, while your competitors are scaling past 100K, $100,000 in a month, scaling to $500,000 in annual revenue. So this is just what cuts the difference between you and your competitors, right? People who these are your competitors are basically relying, or are basically they basically have paid advertising systems that are ensuring that they are getting consistent leads, right? Now, the solution system to this: track referral sources meticulously. Ensure that you supplement with targeted Facebook ads to local clients. So we're not basically, or you're not totally or completely uh, undermining you focusing on word of mouth, but you must have something in hand that is basically a client acquisition machine, and that is on paid ads. And basically, for us as a company, we usually focus on, we mostly focus on meta ads, Facebook ads, because Facebook ads in itself is the best way to ensure that you are getting exclusive leads only tied to you as the epoxy flooring business. So you're not sharing any leads, you're not chasing clients, or not chasing referrals and all that. You are exclusively getting leads specifically tied to your business on a consistently month to month basis, without guesswork or without trying to chase leads or the sort. So this is where you supplement with targeted Facebook ads to local clients, and you're getting these clients at an average of $5 per qualified lead. Look at that. The cost per acquisition is so low if you do it right, right? Now, one contractor added paid ads and doubled leads within 3 months, eventually closing an extra 15K. These are just examples of contractors who have client acquisition engines or client acquisition machines, basically relying on paid advertising, specifically meta ads, Facebook ads. So you're getting a consistent amount of leads on a month to month basis, probably worst scenario cases 10 to 15 qualified high intent leads exclusively for you as the epoxy flooring contractor, if well run. And that is specifically on Facebook ads. And so this gives us a conclusion here: word of mouth is what builds your foundation, but precision marketing is what scales your empire. So you can combine the both. You can kind of have this synergy where you're of course you're relying, or you have referral systems. You've implemented referral systems within your business where your past clients getting nurtured through this content and all that, and eventually trying to even offer incentives to your past clients to get you referrals. So you basically are also going to implement referral systems. You're not completely, just as I said, we're not completely undermining referral systems, but what we're saying, you cannot solely depend on referral systems for you as the epoxy flooring business. It won't basically work. It just won't work. With this, if you solely depend on referral systems, you're going to be stagnating a lot, and your competitors are going to basically skyrocket and overtake you. And this is what this is not what we want for you as the business. Now, just what I've said, we're going to be combining, and we're going to ensure that we have this blend between referral systems within the business, or word of mouth systems within the business, and engaging or implementing paid advertising, specifically Facebook ads, to ensure that you're getting 15 to 20 leads consistently and predictably, at worst, per month. So another mistake that most epoxy flooring contractors have been making in 2025, they just don't position themselves. They have not positioned themselves in the online space. They don't have an online presence, so they fail to position their business properly. So basically, this is what we call the digital handicap. This is where we note this, that 46% of local searches actually target contractors specifically. So this is just a general statistic that covers the contractor industry as a whole, not specifically tied to the epoxy flooring industry as a specific niche. So why is this? We need to realize that outdated websites bleed 70% of potential traffic. Look at that, 70%, not even 50%, more than 50% of your traffic is bleeding because of you having a poorly designed website. So if someone fills in a lead form and they go into a website, maybe they just want to, because as I've been telling you guys, we're living in a time where online buyers really have low trust deficits, right? Like not low trust deficit, but they have trust issues. So this huge gap between you and the buyer. So trust is the only bridge that can close this gap, basically. So if someone goes into a website, you don't have high quality project pictures of past epoxy flooring projects that you did. If you don't have a contact that is visible enough that someone can see and eventually reach out to you and call. If you don't have client testimonials, if your website is lagging or taking so much time, if your website is taking or close to 10 to 15 minutes just to move from one section of the website to the next, then definitely the bounce of rate of the leads that are coming in is definitely going to skyrocket, because who's going to wait for 10 to 15 minutes, even close to an hour, just to get to fill a form within a website? No one is going to do that. They'll eventually go and look at your competitors, look at the competitors who have properly designed websites and high quality websites with client testimonials, high quality project pictures showing how they made the stunning epoxy floors for their past clients and all that. This is what increases the level of trust. At least it makes them feel more confident with you that this is someone who knows what they're doing. This is actually someone serious. And so this is, and I'm telling you guys, this is something that is most epoxy flooring pros haven't just realized. So they think that their service is the problem. They think that themselves are the problem. But the problem is tied to such small, tiny things that can be changed within few minutes, basically, right? So just properly designing a website itself can fix the bleeding amount of thousands and thousands of dollars in lost revenue per month that you as epoxy flooring businesses as an epoxy flooring business tends to lose just because of having a poorly designed website. So the consequence of this is 30% fewer qualified inquiries and thousands in lost revenue monthly. So imagine losing 70% of people, of leads that would have converted into sales just by having a properly designed website, just by having an about us page there, trying to tell the leads who you guys are, telling them about your experience, telling them you've been there in the game for 10 plus years and all that, giving them or showing them the testimonials, telling them the benefits of the epoxy floor, showing them the high quality pictures and all that. This is what makes 70% of this potential traffic convert to sales, and eventually leading you not, to losing this kind of amount of money, right? So this is actually one of the constraints that is making most epoxy flooring businesses not to scale to the level that the top epoxy flooring pros are scaling to or are reaching to, and that is to the 500 to a million per year revenue mark. So the solution to this is simply this: have a modern website essentials. Try and make or try and have a high definition project gallery with instant booking forms, mobile responsive design within your website. So try and implement or try and make your website so modern. Try and have the high quality project pictures within that you have made for your clients. Try and have instant booking forms so a client can come into a website like this, right? I'm going to be showing you this in a minute. I don't know why it's kind of taking time to load. But so basically what I was saying is this: a client can basically come into a website and they're basically I don't know what's wrong with this. So just a minute. Yeah. So this was what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, right? So a client can come into a website. For instance, this is a website belonging to Epoxy Dallas in Texas. A client comes into this web. Look at how this website is so clean. A lead comes in. The lead form is right in front of you. You have the number visibly appearing within the screen. So the website is so smooth. The website design, look at how the pictures are, high quality project pictures, the types of the epoxy flooring that these guys are offering. You're still emphasizing on your phone number, trying to show them clearly, or making your phone number visible enough, right? Making it so easy for a lead that is in need of your service, making it so easy for them, right? So they only fill their name, their phone number, they give their email address, they give their zip code, the project type. What do they want? Do they want a residential project or commercial project done? Then the message, they kind of give their specific needs and then get their quote, right? It makes it so simple. Look at how clean this website is. giving them the reasons as to why they should choose epoxy flooring. Why should they opt for epoxy flooring? Why should they switch their flooring options to epoxy floor, right? Giving them the benefits. Look, epoxy flooring in 2024, epoxy flooring is growing in popularity, just as we said. That is why the market demand is increasing at a high rate, right? So this is just it, guys, and this is the difference between uh, top epoxy flooring contractors who are making 500k, 500,000 US dollars to a million US dollars in annual revenue, as compared to those who are basically struggling even to get to the 100,000 mark in annual revenue. Just slight differences. I can assure you, for an epoxy flooring business who has a poorly designed website, just try and make the tweaks and you'll definitely see a success, an instant amount of success within a short period of time. So just as we said, high definition project gallery, just as I've shown you, have instant booking forms, mobile responsive design. So ensure the website is not lagging, ensure the leads that are coming in are not having a difficult time in moving through the website and all that, and ensure your site is working 24/7. The only way to do this will basically implement an AI chatbot that is going to engage with leads, the speed to lead factor, 30 to 60 seconds, 24/7. The AI chatbot is going to ensure that even when the lead comes in at 3 a.m., the lead is eventually going to be booked for an appointment at that specific time. Apart from that, and guys, before I go on, as you all know, for our company, we basically focus on meta ads only. But for this video, just as I said, I'm just kind of giving an overview of the common mistakes that most epoxy flooring contractors have been making and how they can change the mistakes and implement on areas of weaknesses and improve and look at the areas where they can improve on. And so if you see, or if you note a change in our focus in terms of now focusing on websites and local SEO, we're not specifically tied to SEO and websites and all that. We're specifically tied to meta ads and AI appointment setting systems, basically AI revenue or growth infrastructure systems. So local SEO dominance here, you as the epoxy flooring contractor needs to optimize your search title or search name, basically. So optimize for epoxy garage floor searches, basically. Highlight eco-friendly resin options to capture the sustainability conscious market segment, right? And then from this, revenue acceleration. This is where contractors with optimized digital presence see 25% revenue increases. So you need to realize that currently in this day and age, your online presence is what is going to cut or make the difference between you succeeding, between you reaching the six-figure month per month goals or revenue goals or yearly goals. This is what is your most powerful salesperson, your online presence. This is what speaks for you. Mistake number 3 is basically underpricing jobs and devaluing expertise. So if you're an epoxy flooring contractor who is ignoring the material costs and increasing the material cost increases whilst underpricing your charges or your pricing basically by just 10%, this eventually means you losing $200 to $1,000 per job. Look at that. So by you not even factoring in, for instance, the cost of materials have increased, right? And therefore, this in a normal sense or in a common understanding would mean that you'll definitely have to factor in this increase to your final price in what you're basically pricing or charging the epoxy flooring clients, right? So if you're an epoxy flooring contractor who's ignoring the material cost increases whilst underpricing by just 10%, this is what you're losing out on. You're basically losing on $200 to $1,000 per job on average. Look at that. Now, what is the impact if basically those who are now to be evaluated or equated to 10 jobs per monthly? That's 10 to 20k, 10 to $20,000 evaporating annually, straight from your profit margin into thin air. Look at that. That one in itself is a lot of money that are just losing in thin air just because of this slight mistake. So instead of factoring in the increase in maybe labor or the material costs, instead of factoring that in your final price, in what you're charging to your potential leads, you eventually decide to underprice yourself, and you're basically losing, you're basically going on a loss. So this is what is actually making most epoxy flooring contractors stay at that 300k ceiling. This is what is making them not basically explode into the 500 to a million revenue goal annually. So this is where now we come to the true cost formula. Now this is where you're basically going to be calculating precisely your materials, calculate your labor, calculate your overhead and your profit margin. Then try from the calculations made, try and conduct a competitor audit. Try and see how are competitors pricing how are your competitors pricing, right? Their epoxy floors, right? How are they pricing their services? And then after kind of having this audit and trying to see how your competitors are pricing themselves, position yourself on a 10 to 15% above average. So don't just try and value yourself or price yourself in the same level. Try and increase your pricing to 10 to 15% above average, right? This is not gouging. This is premium positioning. You're positioning yourself not actually based on price. You're positioning yourself based on the value that you're giving, right? Because your pricing is basically tied or specifically tied to the value you're giving. So it's premium positioning that attracts serious clients. The reality check that you need to note is that underpricing will definitely and always attract price shoppers who are just going to be demanding more for less. So these are people who are going to be demanding the valuable or the quality epoxy floor for something less. And you definitely don't want to work with price shoppers. There's this quote by Alex Omozi that I know maybe some of you have heard it. Work with high paying customers. Basically, the more you work with rich people, the more you get the pay. So the quote goes this way: solve rich problems. Yeah, I think I kind of misinterpreted it. Try and solve rich problems, because the more problems that you solve to these rich guys, the more the pay you're going to get. So if you're working with low paying or price shoppers, these are people who are just going to be negotiating with you based on price, and you definitely not want to work with these guys. So definitely price yourself or position yourself premiumly. That can make sense, right? Premium pricing is what attracts clients who value your quality and professionalism. So they can see, based on what you have on your website, based on the client testimonials, they can see the quality of floors that you have made for your past clients and all that. So even if you're even charging, I don't know, a 5k for a garage, as long as they've seen the value, they definitely give you the money. So for instance, look at this. I hope it's not going to lag. So look at this. If a lead comes into this website and they see the kind of work that you have been doing for your past clients, and then they basically fill in the form, you guys meet, or you get to the call, or you get to the in-person meeting and all that, or the appointment, and you get to see what these guys need and all that, and they also get to have seen what you have been doing for your past clients, and eventually you get to the agreement that this particular type of residential project, or for the garage floor, I basically charge 5k for that. They'll definitely give you the money, because they've seen what you've been doing. They've seen the quality on the type of work that you've been doing. So you're not competing on price, you're competing on value. So in as much as to other leads or people, this could be or might be expensive, you're positioning yourself to a specific type of people. These are leads who value quality over the price. So they don't care about the price. They don't care about giving you 5k for an epoxy flooring garage, right? They don't care about giving you 5k even to 10k for a residential project, right? As long as there's value towards the money, as long as the value is tied towards the money, then definitely that is going to make sense for them. And so there's not going to be this hesitation and kind of trying to cycle around, trying to negotiate a lot and all that. It becomes easy for you as the business owner, right? So pricing isn't guesswork. It's mathematics. So add $1,000 per job without losing quality clients, because these people or these guys are buying transformation, not just epoxy resin. Mistake number 4 is on neglecting systematic follow-up, and we've been kind of singing I've been kind of saying this for some time. So this is where we have initial contact. The lead expresses interest in epoxy flooring project. They raise their hand, they fill in the lead form, they call you via the website and all that. But what happens here is most contractors are going to stop here. They tend to assume that the client is eventually going to circle back, or the client will just reach back. It's them who have the desire, so they'll eventually get back if they truly want the epoxy floor done for them and all that. But this is just a horrible mistake that most epoxy flooring contractors make, because today's leads, and I'll keep on repeating this, if they see you as unserious, if you don't respond to them so fast, it's game over for you as the business owner, or as the epoxy flooring business owner. It's basically game over for you. They'll go ahead and look for your competitor. Your competitor who has professional follow-up systems gets to reach towards them, or gets to reach to them in a supersonic speed, in an instant speed and all that, and they eventually get to book an appointment with them. They eventually get to deliver the service on their behalf, and that is how many epoxy flooring contractors wonder why their business is not really scaling to that level. They wonder why they're losing or bleeding tens and thousands and tens of thousands of revenue on a monthly basis just because of this. So a lead is raising their hand, hey, I fill in the form, I need this service done. But you tend to assume the lead is going to reach out eventually back to you. This just does not work. So another issue here is the critical gap. We need to note that 48% of contractors actually never follow up at all. Meanwhile, it is only 80% of the sales that require 5 to 8 strategic touch points to close. Look at that, 80% of sales. So for contractors who are following up once or twice and then give up and then wonder why their business is not flourishing or their business is not reaching the projected goals and all that, simply to this: the aspect of follow up as much as possible. Try and be so much obsessed with following up. And nowadays it's so easy because we have AI appointment setting systems that do that automatically, so you don't have to manually follow up on these leads, trying to rely on memory notes, trying to rely on sticky notes, trying to I don't know what to say on this, trying to call these leads. This is basically going to drain you enough. You only need to focus on what you do best, and that is on installing quality epoxy floors, and leave the AI appointment setting system to do the rest. The AI is going to ensure that it follows 24/7 without sleep, without getting tired, and ensuring to have the goal of booking these leads onto an appointment with you, and eventually you closing them on for a sale, right? And then lost opportunity. Without follow-up, 60% of $2,000 to $10,000 of jobs slip away just like that in thin air. That's $2,000 to $30,000 in monthly revenue, walking to competitors who simply stayed in touch. So guys, if you're an epoxy flooring business who you don't want to see your competitors really winning, then you definitely have to pay attention to these small and minute things that really tend to have really drastic and huge effects for you as the business. Now, day one, you can basically give a thank you message, automated email thanking them for inquiry, basically trying to set expectations. This is just a basic overview on how the follow-up is going to take place whilst you implementing the AI appointment setting systems. Day three, try and drop some value, send helpful tips about epoxy care or design inspiration. Day seven, try and give them a personal call, have a one-to-one or one-on-one phone conversation with them, right? Follow-up is not about pestering. And you need to remember that silence is not rejection. These people are busy. They have lives. So keep on following up with them. Follow-up is about building trust. Every touch point will eventually compound your credibility and moves your prospect closer to the yes. Finally, mistake 5 and 6, having no lead system plus ignoring objections. Now this is where you have the pipeline problem. So where passive waiting creates farmer in months and unpredictable income. So if you're not advertising, you're missing 50% of the available market whilst competitors feast. Just tend to think of this, close to 2 billion to 3 billion people are using Facebook on a day-to-day basis. Now just imagine if you're a business who's relying on boosting posts, who's relying on having this one-on-one image or pictures and all that. Just try and imagine that, right? And then you're trying to compete with a business or your competitor who has a consistent or who has a really professional paid advertising system, a client acquisition system basically, or machine that ensures that leads are coming in within the pipeline on a consistent basis, basically going to 20 or 10 to 20 qualified leads on a consistent basis. That is 10 to $50,000 predictably. So these are business owners who know that in January, if I'm getting $50,000 per month, definitely without a doubt, this is the same amount I'm going to be getting or pocketing next year on February, next year on next month on February, next month on March, next month on April. So it becomes predictable and easy. You don't have to stress. You don't have to have this constant hustle and bustle, trying to have this farmer in cycle of chasing leads and all that. So the lead generation system basically here is going to entail running Facebook ads $200 weekly, basically $30 per day, and generating for you 10 to 20 qualified leads. Now, if you look at the return on investment here, is definitely huge. So just spending close to $1,500 in ads and eventually getting a return on investment of 50,000. Look at that. That's close to 30 to 40x in terms of your return on investment. And then basically also having on implementing AI appointment setting systems to automate consultation bookings. So you're doing it automatically. So instead of you focusing or chasing or manually following up on these leads, you're basically leaving it to AI. AI is doing the rest. And consistent pipeline delivers reliable 20K to 50K monthly revenue, right? Let me just try and include this here. 50K monthly revenue, right? So that's just it. Now, another way or another mistake that most epoxy flooring contractors ignore is on ignoring objections. Basically, how do you handle common objections like it's too expensive? You can give them a response. Look, I understand. Let's look at the 15-year lifespan versus replacing cheaper options every 3 years, which costs more, which is eventually going to cost more, right? So this is just how you can basically try and maneuver yourself when you're getting these common objections, right? Why are you charging this? Why are you charging 3K for an epoxy flooring garage floor, whilst your competitor within the same local area is charging me 1.5K or 2,000 for this? Why is that? So just as I said, remember, you're pricing yourself based on you're pricing yourself based on value, not competing on price, basically. So your value is what speaks for you. So another common objection you definitely get to hear is I need time to think and all that. So your response can be, okay, absolutely. What specific concerns can I address today so you're confident in your decision? So most of these cases really need just the time to think, because you need to realize the epoxy flooring in itself is a high ticket service. So someone is not just going to immediately make the instant purchase of a 2K service or 10K service and all that. So most of them are really skeptical and afraid, specifically because of past experiences maybe that some of them had. So they usually develop this fear-based approach when making any high ticket purchases, basically, and in this case related or specified to epoxy flooring and all that. So try and ask them, okay, what are the specific concerns that we can address today so that we can definitely move on, right? And then lastly, found a cheaper option. Now, when a lead says they found a cheaper option, try and give them this response. Great, you're comparing. Besides price, what matters most? Durability, warranty, or installation expertise? So apart from just going for the cheaper option, right? What really matters most? Are you there? Are you only going for the pricing, or are you also considering the durability aspect of the epoxy floor, or the warranty, and the type of people who are actually going to install the epoxy floors? Because you can go for the cheaper option, but eventually the final work or the final project is eventually going to be something that is really bad, that actually will lead to you regretting opting for the cheaper option. So instead of going for price, instead of going for price, why don't you go for quality? Why don't you go for value? Right? So try and give a comparison as to why you are the better option as compared to your competitors and all that, who are charging lower prices for the epoxy floors and all that. So just as a summary to this, 40% of lost deals are actually stem from unaddressed objections. So you can prepare scripts, try and role play weekly, offer offer strategic bundles like sealant upgrades, probably a $500 additional and all that. So yeah, this is just basically it. Well, and of course, objections are just buying signals. So try and master them and close 30% more deals. So you can. This is not definitely or really necessary for you as the business trying to prepare scripts and all that. Of course, if you're a business owner who has some sales experience within the industry and all that, then definitely preparing scripts will not work. But if you are just a business owner who's just recently started within the industry and all that, then definitely AI is going to come in hand to help you in terms of preparing scripts and in terms of helping you to prepare for objections. So what you're going to do is, the moment you're getting into calls with these people, try and have an AI phone recorder or an AI sales recorder that is basically going to record the whole session that you had, or the whole appointment meeting that you had with the lead, and eventually try and take the whole transcript, paste into ChatGPT or cloud, and try and refine it and make it better, and ask ChatGPT to identify the common objections and how to basically approach these objections. And this is definitely going to help you as the business owner, right? Mistake number 7: random referrals instead of having a systemized growth. So relying on chance-based referrals, right, which eventually lead to lower client retention. So without a system, you're basically leaving $10,000 annually on the table. And actually, this is not 10,000 is just the bare minimum. It goes to a lot, right? It eventually leads to a lot from your happiest customers who would gladly recommend you if only you asked properly, right? So once you deliver with excellence, you complete the project with exceeding expectations, try and have quality follow-up processes in terms of you asking for a referral. So you're not just basically sending generic follow-up or requests to your past leads or your past clients in a kind of a generic way, in a way that seems unprofessional and all that. So try and have automated requests, post job emails with referral incentive, try and include incentives to lure these guys. Tell them, okay, if you give me a referral and all that, then definitely there is an incentive, maybe of $500 incentive and all that. It's not necessarily tied to monetary incentives and all that. You can also have, I don't know, maybe a gift, yeah, gift cards and all that can also work. Basically, something that can make these guys, or can motivate your past clients to actually be referring to you clients that are actually in need, or leads that are actually in need of epoxy flooring service, basically. So the implementation to this: try and set up automated post-job emails in your CRM, try and track referral resources religiously, and basically turn satisfied clients into an unpaid sales team. So try and, as much as possible, implement incentives within your referral system. Have a systemized growth, kind of have a systemized growth in terms of ensuring that the past clients that are leaving are also going to be bringing one happy or satisfied client that has left or that has had the service delivered to them is eventually going to bring three other more, right? But they'll only do this if you actually motivate them. So human beings are really funny people. They usually love free stuff. They usually love motivation and all that. So definitely have some incentives to kind of motivate these guys to be channeling to you referrals, and this is going to be at a really minimum cost, right? With basically minimum ad spend, without relying on ad spend or without relying on other lead acquisition channels, basically. Then, just as a summary to this, mistake number 8: inconsistency is what kills more businesses than bad strategy. The perfection paralysis, trying to perfect everything, waiting for the perfect moment or complete system, causes 50% of your leads to drop off. So if you're having inconsistent marketing, you're basically creating a revenue volatility. So at one point, at a certain month, your revenue is at this level. The next month, your revenue is stunking down. So this is what creates revenue volatility that strangles your growth as a business. So you can't be able to even break the 300K in annual revenue ceiling, right? But momentum compounds. Daily imperfect action beats monthly perfect planning every single time. So ensure to be consistent in terms of your marketing. If you're launching ads, if you're a business owner and you've promised yourself, or you have a goal of ensuring that you want or you desire 10 to 20 consistent leads within the business, then definitely be consistent in terms of your paid advertising and all that. So this is what beats perfect planning every single time. So one follow-up call daily, even 15 minutes consistently, builds pipeline. One social media post, try and showcase your work every day. Try and give social media content every day. Showcase your work, share tips, stay visible, right? Try and have a weekly key performance indicator review. Track what matters: the leads, the closet, the revenue, the cost per acquisition, right? The cost per lead and all that. And then basically time as to automation. And here is when we note that automation is your competitive advantage in 2025, where AI is what is setting apart or setting separate or making or basically distinguishing the contractors who are going to be successful in 2026 to those who are not, is AI. This is the singular and most important factor. This is actually what is kind of disrupting industries currently in the world right now. And so if you're a business owner, if you're an epoxy flooring pro who's not leveraging AI systems and implementing them earlier enough, then I'm sorry to say this, very soon your business is going to be not really, uh, how can I say this? Your business is not going to be really disrupted, but the businesses that are actually using AI are going to be at a much further advantage or leverage than you, right? So this is where you're going to be leveraging AI tools, Calendly for scheduling, Buffer for social posts, and having your CRM for follow-ups. So technology handles repetition whilst you focus on high-value activities like consultations, making the installations, relationship building, and eventually this leads to a 3x in terms of lead conversion. Consistent daily actions versus sporadic efforts. 3x lead conversion here means the speed to lead, right? The faster you respond to the lead, the faster they convert. 60% of time is saved. So instead of you balancing your time, or trying to focus or trying to be the marketer, trying to be the follow-up guy, and also at the same time trying to be the installer, the epoxy installer, your time is greatly and drastically reduced to only focusing on the core activities, and that is on installation, epoxy installations. And eventually this ties to the financial impact it has, the annual growth from systematic consistency alone, the annual growth that you have in terms of the financial impact this has. $50,000 is saved. This is $50,000 in additional revenue as a result of AI being implemented within your business, right? Just look at the free money that that epoxy flooring contractors who are not using AI are missing out on. So this is just wild. Now, your 2026 breakthrough from stack to unstoppable. Number one, having predictable revenue, consistent flowing through your pipeline monthly, having lead abundance, 20 plus qualified leads monthly from multiple automated sources, having client loyalty, reducing your churn rate, 37% higher retention through systematic referral programs, stress-free scaling, having your systems run for you whilst you focus on the growth. The cost of inaction, every month you ignore these mistakes, you're basically bleeding 10 to 50,000 in dollars in revenue. Now every single month, not annually, right? Fix these 8 mistakes now as you prepare to enter into 2026 by building robust systems, leveraging AI automation and systems, maintain relentless consistency. You don't have to have the perfect plan. Consistent action will always beat inconsistent action, not rather inconsistent action, but imperfect action is always going to beat perfect planning and all that, right? Highlight eco-friendly options to capture the 30% sustainability market, right? Because your business, epoxy business, can break through $500,000 in 2026 and beyond. Basically, yours is to start today because momentum is actually what compounds into freedom. We need to realize the contractors that are scaling past the $500,000 mark aren't lucky. They're just systematic in their ways. They follow up, they price with confidence, they market consistently, and they've stopped grinding and started building real businesses. This is your move and opportunity. In this certain period where many epoxy flooring pros are putting off the gas, most of them are now kind of in a relaxed mode because it's the holiday season and most of them are waiting till January to kind of plan and prepare themselves. Why don't you go ahead and stay ahead of the curve, stay ahead of the competition, try and assess and audit what are the potential bottlenecks, just as what we have covered within this video. What are the potential bottlenecks that have been bleeding a lot of revenue for you as the business and making you unprofitable? So, of course, you as the business owner, many you as the business owners have your specific revenue goals, and I'll definitely not tie this specific goal or this specific revenue mark that the top epoxy flooring contractors are making to a specific needs and to specific goals. Of course, everyone has their specific revenue goal, but basically this is just an opportunity for you as a business owner to actually prepare, get ahead of those who are currently not putting the foot on the gas. They're basically on a relaxed mode at this moment. So this can really this period between December and January can really give you a high leverage and a high competitive advantage in terms of just getting ahead and fixing the bottlenecks that have been acting inefficient on your side as the epoxy flooring business. And so without much further ado, if you want a complete step-by-step process and audit within your business to kind of see the potential bottlenecks that are bleeding you a lot of revenue, thousands to thousands of revenue being lost, then definitely book a free strategy call with me, and we'll definitely see if this is a good fit and how we can definitely work together and see how this will eventually work out. So without much further ado, that's just it for this video. Hope you guys have had a blast in it. Hope to see you in the next one.